The sound of his own breath echoed too loudly inside his helmet. Cale Dorn kept his head low as he crouched behind a twisted root the size of a hovercraft. Steam hissed from the jagged remains of his escape pod, now a smoldering crater in the mossy forest floor behind him. The crash had drawn attention. It always did. Fulari Prime was supposed to be uninhabited, just another moon in the outer reaches, thick with jungle and rumor. But Kyle knew better now. He could feel the jungle, watching. Motion sensors dead, he muttered, tapping the side of his cracked visor. Static. Biometric scanners busted too. Great. He checked his sidearm. 2 shots left. 1 for something out there. 1 for himself if it came to that. The underbrush shifted. Something moved. Smooth, deliberate, and silent. Kyle froze, every muscle tense. The silence was what scared him. Most predators on Fulari didn't roar or snarl. They didn't stalk with noise or pride. They moved like whispers, like shadows on smoke. If you heard something, you were already dead. And Kale wasn't ready to die. He took off running. Tree trunks loomed around him like alien bones, silver bark shimmering faintly in the blue-green twilight. Vines dangled low, some twitching like they were alive. He didn't stop, didn't look back. He'd seen what happened to Lieutenant Harrow. 1 second she was there, the next, just a streak of blood on the moss. Kyle sprinted until his lungs burned and his vision blurred. When he finally collapsed, it was in a hollow carved into the roots of a massive tree. He crawled deeper, pulling vines and branches over the opening. Darkness wrapped around him like a second skin. He didn't realize he'd passed out until a low growl rumbled above him. His eyes snapped open. Standing just outside the hollow was a Rethik stalker. Nearly 3 meters tall, the creature's sleek body shimmered like oiled metal. Its 6 eyes glowed faintly violet, and its mouth stretched into a too-wide grin filled with needle teeth. It hadn't seen him, yet. Kale didn't breathe. Didn't blink. Didn't think. The stalker sniffed the air. And then, without warning, it lunged. He scrambled back, drawing his sidearm. But before he could fire, something else struck the stalker from the side with such force it cracked the tree trunk. Blur of silver and crimson slammed into the predator, sending it crashing through the brush. Claws tore at the air. The fight was savage, fast, and silent. When it ended, the stalker lay twitching on the ground, throat torn open. Kale raised his weapon, aiming shakily at the figure standing over the corpse. "Who the hell?" "Quiet," she said. Her voice was smooth, clipped, and not entirely human. She stepped into the dim light. Tall, lithe, and draped in a cloak of tattered moss. The woman had sleek silver hair braided back from pointed ears. Her eyes glowed amber, and a long tail flicked. Once behind her, not human, not stalker. Something else, something in between. "You'll bring more if you keep talking," she added, kneeling beside the fallen beast. She dug a curved blade into its hide and carved free a glowing gland, which she slipped into a pouch. "You're lucky I found you first." "I didn't ask to be found," Kale said, lowering the gun but not holstering it. "No," she agreed, "but you would have died alone if you hadn't been." "So what are you then? A rescue team?" He laughed bitterly. "You look like you crawled out of the trees yourself." She looked him over once and something passed behind her eyes. "I'm Sela," she said, "and no, I'm not part of your rescue. If anyone's coming for you, they're either dead already or not stupid enough to land here." "You're Fulari," Kale muttered. He remembered the stories. Sleek hunters with hybrid blood, outcasts from the main species. "I thought your people didn't interfere." "They don't," she said. "I'm not one of them. Not anymore." He didn't. Like how casually she said it. "You helped me." "Why?" "Because you owe me now," she said flatly. "And I don't save things I can't use." Kale narrowed his eyes. "Use me how?" Sela turned away. "Follow me or stay here and rot. Your choice." The jungle groaned around them. He followed. They traveled in silence. Sela moved like she belonged to the forest. She didn't flinch at the sudden cries of night wings overhead or the gurgling moans of creatures buried beneath the moss. Kale stumbled more than once trying to keep up, nearly face-planting when he stepped on a root that slithered away underfoot. They reached a series of ledges cut into a stone wall, a makeshift path carved by hands, not nature. Sela led him to a hidden alcove half buried by foliage. Inside, a flickering energy shield buzzed weakly against the entrance. She tapped a glyph stone embedded in the wall. The shield shimmered and dissolved. "Safe house," she said simply. The interior was dry, warm. Gear lined the walls, bones, weapon parts, salvage tech, a solar battery. This wasn't just a camp, it was a war den. "You've been here a long time," Kyle said. "Long enough," Sela replied, tossing him a protein ration. "Eat. Rest. Tomorrow we leave for the edge." "What's at the edge?" "Maybe a way out. Maybe death. Depends how lucky you are." Kale sat slowly, unwrapping the bar. He stared at her, unsure if she was a savior or another predator playing with her food. "What did you mean when you said you could use me?" he asked. "Your crash wasn't random," she said. "There are signals buried in your pod's trail, markers that trace back to an old Vulpine site, one no one's supposed to find. But someone wanted you to land near it." He blinked. I wasn't told anything about that." "You weren't meant to be," she said. "You were. Bait," he felt a chill run down his spine. "Bait for what?" "For something that hunts even the stalkers," she said quietly. "And now that you're here, they'll come looking. Not for you, but for what you lead them to." "Who's they?" Sela didn't answer. She just stared out into the dark, ears twitching. Then, almost too softly to hear, the real predators. The jungle whispered secrets Sela had long since learned to ignore. Her ears twitched at the faint rustle of wings overhead, the pulsing cries of mating thrall beasts echoing through the dark canopy. Kyle walked a step behind her, limping slightly. From a twisted ankle he'd refused to admit hurt. Stubborn, she thought, like most humans, soft skin, brittle pride. But something else lingered in his eyes, not just fear. Purpose. And it made her uneasy. "You keep looking at me like I'm going to sprout extra heads," he muttered, brushing sweat from his brow. "You haven't told me why you're really here," Sela said, not bothering to look back. "Scouts don't get assigned to moons marked red-level quarantine without a bigger reason." "I told you," Kyle said. "Random jump error during a mapping run. Wrong coordinates, wrong place." "You're lying," she said flatly. "Your ship's flight path was too clean. You were sent." He didn't deny it this time. Sela crouched by a tree with bark like black glass, fingers tracing the spiraling root system that led into the ground like veins. They were close. The old tunnel was somewhere beneath. "You're not going to kill me, are you?" Kale asked, voice dry. "Because if you are, just do it before the bugs get in my boots again." "If I wanted you dead," Sela said, "I'd have let the Rithik take you." She tapped her blade against a hidden node in the soil. The ground hummed, shifted. A square panel of moss and root slid open, revealing a shaft carved from stone and pulsing with dim red glyphs. "Down," she ordered. Kale hesitated, staring into the hole. "What is this place?" "An old hunter commune," she replied. "Before, the Vulpine exiled themselves to the stars. Some stayed behind to preserve certain knowledge. Forbidden things. And you're leading me there?" "You're already part of it," she said. "You might as well understand what you're carrying." He gave her a look that wasn't quite gratitude, not quite suspicion. But he climbed down without another word. She followed. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber lit by bioluminescent roots curling across the ceiling like veins of living fire. Bones lined the walls, some human, most not. Weapons hung from hooks, crude but elegant, designed for war and silence. Sela approached a platform at the center, kneeling before an altar shaped like a predator's skull. Kale stepped carefully, avoiding the bones. "This place feels wrong." "It's a graveyard," she said, "but also a cradle." He frowned. "Cradle of what?" She rose, eyes sharp. "Of the hunt." Kyle was quiet for a moment, then slowly. "You used to live here, didn't you?" Yes, she said, and before I was exiled. For what? Selah turned to him fully now, her cloak dropping from one shoulder, revealing a scar carved in a twisting spiral down her collarbone. For refusing the bond. Kyle tilted his head. Bond? Vulpari hunters are bonded to the hallowed echo, she explained. A psychic link that joins predator and prey, feeling and instinct. It drives them, defines them. I broke mine. Why? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she picked up a bone blade from the altar and handed it to him. Hold this. Kyle took it. It pulsed faintly in his hand, like a heartbeat. Now breathe, she said. He did. In the next instant, he staggered backward, clutching his head. He was no longer in the chamber. He was running, through woods soaked in blood, chased by something vast and cold. Then he was the one chasing, fangs bared, hunger raging inside him like fire. He dropped the blade, gasping. What? What was that? A memory, Selah said. Not yours. The blade holds the essence of the one who wielded it. The bond is memory, instinct, power, all shared. And you broke it? I refuse to be ruled by it. She walked past him and retrieved the blade, sliding it back into place. But now that bond is shifting, she said. There's a fracture in the echo. And you, Kale, are the crack. Me. I'm not psychic. I'm not special. Someone thought you were, she said. Enough to drop you right next to the last living commune of echo-born predators. He shook his head. I just want to get off this moon. You might, she said, but you won't leave unchanged. They camped in the commune that night. Selah slept lightly, ears twitching at the slightest sound. Kale dozed by the fire, restless. Sometime near dawn, a soft chime echoed through the chamber. Selah was up instantly, blade in hand. What is it? Kyle asked, half awake. Visitors. The chamber door split open. 3 figures stepped through, Vulpari, armored in bone and silk. One wore a mask of a snarling beast. The others bore matching spiral scars. Selah stepped forward. You're trespassing, she said coldly. You're the exile, the lead Vulpari said. His voice was like wind over broken glass. And he gestured to Kale, is the spark. He's under my protection. Then you share his fate. The second Vulpari raised a weapon that looked like a bow made of ribs. It hummed. Kale reached for his sidearm, but Selah was already moving. She leapt into the air, twisting. Her blade flashed once, then twice. The archer fell, throat spraying black-green blood. Kale ducked behind a stone as the remaining Vulpari charged. Selah! She fought with wild grace, claws flashing, tail lashing out. The masked leader met her strikes with brutal precision. Sparks flew, bone cracked. The chamber trembled. Kale didn't wait. He grabbed a relic spear from the wall, charged, and drove. It through the second Vulpari's side. The warrior screamed and collapsed. The masked one turned, furious. But Selah was faster. She slashed upward, tearing through his mask and driving him back. He fell, bleeding. We're not done, he gasped. No, she said, but you are. One swift kick sent him tumbling into the darkness beyond the chamber. Kale leaned against the wall, breathing hard. You okay? She asked. I just speared a psychic bone warrior, he panted. Define okay. She allowed herself a faint smirk. Welcome to the pact, she said. What pact? You fight beside me now, she said. You've touched the echo. You've seen what hunts beyond the jungle. It won't let you go. He stared at the bodies. So what now? Now, she said, retrieving a glowing shard from the archer's pouch. We follow the signal this leads to. She held it up. It pulsed in rhythm with Kale's heartbeat. What is it? The reason you're still alive, she said. And the reason they'll all keep coming. Commander Lyric's Hale hated waiting. She stood before the transparent viewport of the stealth cruiser Eclipse Fang, arms crossed, eyes narrowed at the swirling jungle moon below. Vulpari Prime, silent, savage, and full of teeth. The official mission, Brief called it a classified recon operation, Unofficially, it was a trap, and she was the bait watcher. "Still no signal from Agent Dorn," said Tech Officer Rian, his voice edged with nervous static. "We've tried every frequency, short burst, encrypted feed, even distress code protocols." Lyrics didn't blink. "And the anomaly?" "Widening," Ryan said. "Energy patterns suggest interference with psionic resonance fields. Organic in origin. Not natural. Not natural and not dead." "And the overseers?" she asked. "Silent." "Of course they were. Ever since they'd sent Kyle Dorn to the surface without a full squad, Lyrics had suspected something darker. Dorn was an analyst, not a hunter. Sending him alone to Falari was like handing meat to a nest of razorflies. "Open the private channel," she said. Rian hesitated. Do it." After a moment, the static changed. A new voice came through, rasping, layered, too smooth. "You defy the chain again, Commander." "I want answers," Lyric said. "You sent a non-combatant into a known class-red ecosystem. Now he's vanished and we're reading distortions in orbit. You question the will of the chain? I question the intelligence of letting your tools break before they're useful." The voice was silent for a moment. Then, "Kyle Dorn is no tool. He is a key." "To what?" "To what waits beneath." The signal cut. Lyrics' jaw tightened. They weren't just watching. They were steering. And she didn't like being steered. "Prepare the landing craft," she said to Rian. He blinked. "You're going down?" "We're going down," she said. "But not through the main vector. We drop dark and burn low. If Dorn's alive, he'll have lit something up. We follow the noise. And if we don't find him, then we find out what was worth sacrificing him for." The descent was rough. Falari's atmosphere scraped at their hull like a living thing, hissing across their shields with hungry glee. Lightning arced across the canopy below, illuminating twisted shapes that didn't quite fit natural biology. They touched down in a narrow gorge, the cruiser cloaked and dormant. Lyrics led the squad of 4, silent armor, heavy rifles, dampened boots. They moved like ghosts. But she knew it wouldn't matter. The jungle always knew. And it was watching. After 6 hours of tracking, they found blood. Not fresh, but recent. Trails leading away from a collapsed tree structure, half-eaten stalker carcass rotting in the open. More disturbing were the glyphs carved into the rocks nearby. Old Volari symbols, ones Lyrics hadn't seen in decades. One of the troopers, Donick, paused to examine them. "These markings are a warning," he said. "A boundary. A prison," Lyrics corrected. "Someone didn't want us crossing. They did anyway. They found the commune at dusk. Ruins sprawled across a moss-covered hill, half swallowed by the jungle. Bones lined the outer stones, skulls with punctures, spines broken. Neatly. Lyrics raised a fist. The squad spread out, covering corners, sights up. Inside the central chamber, they found signs of struggle. Blood trails. Impact scoring. Old tech still pulsing with faint energy. And one object glowing bright red on the altar. A shard. Lyrics approached, slowly. It pulsed once when she neared, then again. And then it spoke. Not in sound, but in sensation. A spike of hunger. A whisper of memories that weren't hers. Pain. Fire. Something awakening. She snatched her hand back. "Commander?" Donick asked. "This is wrong," she muttered. "This place is alive." She turned to the others. "Lock it down, take samples, we—" A shape dropped from above. Black claws tore into one trooper's back. Another was slammed against the wall before he could scream. Donick opened fire and the bullets melted against the thing's skin. A blur of silver and crimson dove into the chaos. Not the beast. Someone else. 2 someones. Sella. Kale. Lyrics recognized them just before the lights failed. The fight ended. Fast. Sela's blade flashed like lightning. The creature shrieked once before vanishing into smoke. 2 troopers lay dead. The third groaned from behind a broken stone slab. Lyric stood, gun raised. "Drop it," Sella said, blade at her side but not relaxed. Kale stepped between them. "Wait." "Kale," Lyric said, voice tight. What the hell happened to you? What always happens on Falari, he said. Things hunt and then they change. You're wounded, she said. We'll extract, debrief. You can't, Sayla interrupted. He's bonded now. Lyrics narrowed her eyes. You're Vulari? Not anymore. Then you know what bonding means. It's unstable, irreversible. Only if you're afraid of it. Kyle held up the shard. It pulsed. This isn't just tech, he said. It's part of something older, something still alive under this moon. And it's waking up. Lyric stared at him. You're not just the key, she whispered. You're the trigger. Suddenly the ground trembled. A pulse of energy surged through the commune. Glyphs lit up. The air tasted like iron and ash. They've found us, Sayla said, eyes narrowing. Who? Lyrics asked. The Echoborn, Sayla said. Not predators. Not prey. Something in between. And now they want their peace back. Kale looked at the shard, then at the sky. We need to get off this moon, he said. You'll never make it, Sayla replied. Not without finishing what they started. What did they start? Lyrics asked. A war, Sayla said. One, your people buried under jungle and silence. But it's growing teeth again. The roar came from the trees, deep, layered, ancient, and close. Kale had never heard silence like this, not absence of sound, but the kind of silence that swam under your skin, laced with ancient memories, tremors of things long buried, things that breathed in rhythm with the roots of the world. The jungle, around them, had gone still. No wind, no insects. Even the howls of distant predators had died. Ahead, the overgrowth parted for a black stone spire, half swallowed by vines and time. It pulsed like a heartbeat, deep crimson veins running through its walls. This is the Echo Core, Kale asked. What's left of it? Sayla answered. The first hive before the Vulari left the surface, before they became shadows. Commander Lyric stepped beside them, rifle raised. And you're saying this place made the bond? Not made, Sayla said. Amplified. It was never meant for one species. It was for all life. Predator and prey, linked in a balance. Kale clutched the shard they'd taken from the commune. It vibrated faintly in his hand now, hot and cold at once. It wasn't just reacting to the structure ahead. It was calling to it. And what happens when we bring it back, he asked. We wake it, Sayla said simply. Lyrics didn't like that answer. We don't even know what it is. Kale stepped forward. Then maybe it's time we found out. They moved through a narrow fissure in the spire's base, the shard guiding them like a compass. Ancient murals lined the walls, spirals and teeth, stars and creatures shaped like nothing Kale had seen before. Alien, but hauntingly familiar. This wasn't just Vulari, he murmured. This was older. Older than memory. Sayla agreed. Older than language. The bond was once a way to listen to the world. Then it was turned into a weapon. Lyrics' eyes narrowed. By who? Sayla didn't answer, because they all knew. Humans. At the center of the Echo Core they found the heart, a vast chamber, circular and open to the sky. The jungle above was gone, burned away by pure resonance. Floating stones circled a platform of obsidian, and in the center hovered a broken construct of bone and crystal. It thrummed with unsung songs, its notes raw and chaotic. The shard in Kale's hand leapt from his palm and flew to the construct. It clicked into place. Light exploded, outward, not blinding but revealing. Glyphs flared to life along the walls. The air thickened with memory. Kale fell to his knees. He saw cities burning, Vulari screaming, their minds linked in agony. He saw human warships orbiting Falari, testing weapons built on resonance. He saw the shattering of the hive, the core split into fragments and buried across the moon. And then he saw something else. Teeth. Not flesh and bone, but sound and instinct. A presence coiled in the roots of this planet, neither good nor evil, just hungry. Cale gasped. The vision ended. Sela caught him. "You saw it," she said softly. "It's not dead," Cale whispered. "The thing beneath, the true Echo-born, it was never killed, just caged. Caged with blood," she said, "and now you've opened the gate." A low rumble shook the chamber. Outside, the jungle screamed. They emerged to find the sky boiling. Clouds twisted in on themselves, torn by unseen claws. Lightning lashed from tree to tree. And at the edge of the clearing stood them, figures of bone and shadow, eyes burning red. The Echo-born. But they weren't attacking. They were waiting. Cale stepped forward, instinct rising in his blood like fire. One of the figures stepped forward, taller than the rest. Its form half-shifted between humanoid and beast. It spoke without, speaking its voice a resonance inside their skulls. "You are the broken chain." Cale didn't flinch. "I didn't ask for this, but you are chosen. By bond, by breach, by blood." Lyrix raised her weapon. "What do they want?" The figure's head turned slowly, to remember. Cale understood then. The shard, the visions, the pain. They weren't punishments. They were memories, shared by all who had touched the core. The Echo-born were not invaders. They were remnants. Fragments of species who had once been part of the bond, and now they wanted their place back. "You don't want war," he said aloud. "You want to restore the link. We want balance." Sela looked at him. "Can you do it?" "I don't know," Kyle said, "but I think that's why I was brought here." The figure stepped forward and extended a hand, its fingers shifting from claws to light. Cale took it and screamed. His mind burst open. The bond poured into him, not just memories, but sensations, instincts, truths. He felt the heartbeat of the moon, the cries of dying species, the joy of the hunt, the sorrow of extinction. And through it all, he heard a voice. Not words, just, "Welcome." When it ended, Cale stood, changed. His eyes glowed faint red, not like the Echo-born, but something gentler. Balanced. The leader nodded. Then, as one, the Echo-born bowed. In the silence that followed, Lyric spoke. "So that's it?" she asked. "We let them live?" "We let them return," Kyle said. "The bond is part of this planet, part of us. Fighting it only feeds it." Sela stepped beside him. "And if the chain sends more? Then we show them what happens when prey stops running." 3 days later, the Eclipse Fang left Filari orbit, cloaked and silent. Lyrics had authorized the falsified report. Anomaly destroyed. No survivors. Mission complete. In truth, she'd left behind something far more dangerous than any broken signal. She'd left Cale, not human, not predator. Something new. A bridge between worlds. Deep beneath Filari's surface, the core pulsed. The bond sang, and in the distance, in systems untouched by human hands, others listened. The Echo-born were not alone, they never had been. Solon Trev never believed in monsters. He'd hunted pirates across the Kuros Belt, survived collapse drills on hollow moons, and even talked down a rogue terraforming AI during the 6-hour standoff above Nadra Prime. Monsters were fiction, useful, metaphors for men with too much power, until the day Filari Prime lit up like a dying star. "Another surge," said Ilari. "The station's comms tech. Resonance spike from the Filari sector. Same wavelength as last week, only bigger. It's spreading." Solon frowned. The holomap projected pulsing red rings across space, growing outward from Filari like a ripple. Not random, not natural. "Is that a signal? Not one we sent?" "Decode it," Solon said. "Now." He watched the pattern unfold, a slow, deliberate pulse. Not data, not static, music. And in the middle of it all, a voice. Soft, ancient, and human. "We are not alone. We were never alone. Hours later, a secure call came through, one that bypassed every encryption layer and landed directly in Solon's neural feed. "Agent Trev," the voice said, deep, smooth. "A chain overseer. High level. Dangerous. You're looking into Falari," the voice continued. "Stop." Solon stood alone in his command quarters, staring at the swirling map. "We picked up a message. A live one." "A lure," the voice corrected. "The Echoborn are not to be contacted. The containment protocols exist for a reason." "Containment failed," Solon said. "And someone human sent that message. We have to know who." A pause. Then, "We sent him." Solon's stomach sank. "Kyle." "Dorn," the overseer continued. His mind was seated. The bond was triggered. He is no longer ours. "So what is he?" "A doorway. One that should never have been opened." Solon leaned forward. "Then why open it?" "To understand what we lost. The connection went dead. He left that night. No orders, no escort, just an unmarked scout ship and a drive full of stolen data. He was going to Falari. The planet loomed like a wound in space, uncharted, off limits, surrounded by warning buoys that screamed "stay out" in 12 languages. Solon passed them all. The moment his ship entered orbit, the noise began. Resonance fields humming against the hull, the same melody he'd heard in the station. But now it felt closer, like a whisper in the blood. He landed near a dead commune, and the jungle greeted him. The first thing he saw was a predator, a 6-legged stalker beast charging from the brush. He aimed his plasma pistol, bracing for the shot. But it stopped, sniffed the air, then lowered its head and walked away. Solon blinked. He wasn't being hunted. He was being acknowledged. He found Kale near the old spire ruins, sitting beside a pool of glowing water. Not alone. A woman sat next to him, pale, sharp-eyed, not quite human. And behind them, a dozen more figures stood like sentinels. Not threatening, not afraid. Kyle stood. "You came?" "Had to," Solon said. "Your message made a mess. It was supposed to. Why?" Kyle held up a hand. Solon saw it now, his veins pulsing with faint crimson, his eyes glowing softly like embers. "Because the bond is returning. Not just to Falari. Everywhere." "You're starting a war?" "No," Sela said. "We're ending one." Kale stepped forward. "They called us prey. Disposable. But they forgot what prey becomes when it adapts." Solon stared. "So this is revenge?" "This is reclamation," Kale said. "The Echoborn aren't enemies. They're memories. Instincts. Pieces of what we lost when we became civilized." Solon looked around. The jungle shimmered with heat and life. He heard the faint pulse beneath his feet, like a heartbeat. "The chain will never let this spread," he said. "They can't stop it," Sela replied. "It's already begun." Kale smiled. "Some humans have already heard the call. Others will resist. But in the end, the bond will return." "And you think that's a good thing?" "I think," Kale said, "that it's necessary." The ground shook. A low hum echoed across the valley. More figures appeared, some Volari, some entirely alien, some wearing human armor now overgrown with moss and bone. None of them attacked. They surrounded Solon and waited. Kale stepped forward and offered his hand. "You don't have to believe," he said. "Just listen." Solon hesitated. The pistol at his side felt useless now. The stories he'd believed, monsters, containment, superiority, they cracked just a little, and in their place, curiosity. He took the hand, and the bond opened. He saw stars burning, not in violence but in song. He felt the breath of a dying world giving birth to memory. He understood the hunger of predators and the panic of prey, two halves of a single truth, not enemies, just survival, just life. And he understood KL. not as a man who had gone rogue, but as something new, an ambassador of instinct. When it ended, Solon stood in silence. He looked out at the forest, then up at the sky. The stars seemed brighter now, closer. He turned to Kale. "What happens next?" "We stop running," Kyle said. "And we start remembering." Weeks later, a new signal rippled across the neutral sectors. Not a threat, not a warning. A choice: reconnect, or be left behind. Some worlds silenced the feed, some listened, and a few responded. Because humanity had always feared the dark. But now, the dark remembered them, and it was calling them home.